Ladies and gentlemen, still mostly gentlemen, we are quite literally edging 1,000,000 subs right now, and if we hit 1,000,000, I have to platinum Fortnite, which is one of the hardest platinums ever. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, in today's video, I decided to go on the good old PS3 and platinum one of, if not the hardest Call of Duty platinums that is possible. World at War, infamous for its veteran difficulty campaign and constant grenade spams that quite literally almost come straight from God himself to punish us for our sins. In total, the game has 45 trophies, including the platinum trophy for its base game list, and it's rated at an 8 out of 10 for difficulty, which ties my hardest platinum trophy completion after today. The game does also have online trophies, unfortunately. However, I had no issues with that thanks to the wonderful Discord for the ItsIlusion community. Join for free below with a fixed link because apparently it didn't work before. This is awkward. Oh my God. But starting off today, stage 1 is to either do a veteran playthrough by itself and get the one collectible trophy of the game, being the death card collectibles, or just doing a normal recruit or regular difficulty run and also doing the collectibles, which aren't much like I just said. And that's what I chose to do just because on my veteran run, I really just wanted to complete the game and not really focus on much else. And also to just know what happens on the level so I could be a bit more prepared than going in raw, because you never do that your first time unless you're built like that. I'm a little bitch though, as we all know, so I did just do a regular difficulty playthrough, going for the collectibles like I said, which are very small, again only having 13 total and being 1 on almost every level of the game. But War of the Wars campaign, if you don't know, follows 2 storylines, being the American side and the Russian side. It swaps back and forth between them, and they are for the most part equal in difficulty across the spectrum. But here in the first level, I did find that first collectible almost right away, and this is what they look like, just little cards on a stick. Shout out to the crazy collectibles of 2008 gaming, on God. But this first level was called Semper Fi, and it had us escaping a Japanese encampment with the boys that saved us, and then beginning our onslaught of them as we do. Only a few minutes in, you also come across a soldier named Private Ryan who was getting mauled by an enemy, and if you shoot the enemy dead fast enough, you get a trophy called Saving Private Ryan. Yes, this is a nod to the blockbuster movie, and I love it. Oh, and yeah, at first in this game, I was also having a lot of issues with my controller. The one I bought off of Amazon was kind of busted, but I would eventually just switch out for my PS5 controller because you can do that, and it went kind of hard. It made the game a lot easier to play. But for the sake of this video's length and trophies, I am not going to explain the story too much, especially not on this regular run, because the veteran run was far more detailed and interesting. So I am going to talk more about it then. But for now, the next trophy I got was just from finishing this level, and it was called Carlin's Raiders. The level ends off with us sending a truck full of gas cans down to blow up a barricade, then planting the bomb ourselves and running towards shore to sail away on a boat. Also, it has one of the loudest moments in gaming history, and my ears are now bleeding. This is truly the war experience. The next level I did was then Little Resistance, and this is the infamous Storm the Beach level. You get given an airstrike as well from the naval ships that we have backing us up offshore, and there's a part more near the ending of the mission that leaves you firing down into a ton of enemies all grouped up, and I took this as my opportune moment to get the Weapon of Mass Destruction trophy from killing at least 4 Japanese soldiers with the naval bombardment. The last time I saw that many Japanese die, I was watching Squid Game, and I'm also now realizing that that show might not have had Japanese people in it, and that might have just been a racist comment. But that was all that happened in the level, and I did get one more trophy on the next one called Hard Landing. But it was a bit into the level when you get ambushed by a bunch of sneaky little guys in trees and tall grass called the bonsais. Now, I thought them screaming that the entire game was kind of just a racist thing the COD devs did, but apparently that's just what they're called. Anyways, the trophy was just from surviving one of their attacks when they have you on the ground and are about to stab your innards out. Just pressing R3 fast enough will do the job, and here's that trophy pop. But I would then unfortunately go a few hours without getting more trophies, because on this difficulty, you don't really get rewarded upon beating any levels, whereas on veteran you get a trophy every single time. So the next one I got was at the ending of the Relentless mission. It was just from beating it, which is kind of boring, especially on regular difficulty, but this level is one of the more annoying ones in general because it consisted entirely of almost cave combat. And the veteran difficulty version of this is like hell walking, and I remember it very clearly. But here's that trophy anyways once I did finish the level. Jumping forwards again to another level named Eviction, there is an underground subway part that actually isn't horrid on veteran difficulty. It is still very annoying, but then again, pretty much every time an enemy is out and about on veteran, it's bad. But this one had us storming a subway to get through it, and the power went out constantly as you were down there. A trophy can be gotten called Shot in the Dark from killing 10 enemies while it is indeed dark. And I honestly had no clue that this was a trophy, but I thought you're supposed to just do that anyways because they can't really see you, and it's, you know, the best time to shoot the enemies. But I did it at least 10 times. The trophy popped right here. And nearing the ending levels on a level called Breaking Point, I got the Mortar Dom trophy from killing 8 Japanese soldiers with thrown mortars. One of the best ways to kill enemies on this level, and it's honestly required fire due to how many get shoved inside of it. This level also had one of the highest enemy counts out of any, and it was quite ridiculous to be honest. But I also did do this accidentally just because, as I said, it's the best way to go about it, and here's a trophy pop as well. And on this same level, there also is a trophy that I missed unfortunately, but it was from saving Sergeant Roebuck, who was that guy with us throughout the entirety of the American side of the game. And I honestly didn't think you could do this because these kamikaze people just blow up both him and some other dude, but I guess you can. So instead, I just finished the mission like usual, and after doing so, winning the Battle of Okinawa, as they say, the trophy from that pops. The next two trophies I got were then for just finishing the game. And these last levels with Reznov against the Germans were some of the hardest levels in the game in general, both on regular, but obviously on veteran. Essentially, all you do though is blow up these massive guns, fight up these steps, break into the stronghold they are protecting, and then just eliminate every single enemy remaining from there on until making it to the roof and planting our flag, signifying that we have won the fight. And that then finished the level and the game, and I got a trophy after finishing all the missions on the Eastern Front, and then the trophy from beating the game on any difficulty along with it. So that's stage 1 finished with, and I then jumped over to stage 4 actually, which is just the co-op stage because I wanted to knock that one off real quick while I could, seeing as some of the boys from the Discord offered up help when I asked so nicely. So huge shout out to Odd Socks, Bobble Poop Hero, and the boy NLP. But these co-op trophies are very easy and they can be done in like 20 minutes. I also made sure to load us up into the one level where I missed the collectible on so I could get that trophy as well because I did miss one unfortunately. But the overall goal was for me to just get first place on the team with 4 people inside of it in competitive co-op. So we kind of just played it out, letting me get the majority of the kills, but it was fairly smooth. I also did find that last collectible thanks to one of the boys knowing where it was. Absolutely elite ball knowledge. But then we just finished off the level and it was also super fast, which was a W. Upon finishing and me placing first, I got 2 trophies. The complete competitive co-op trophy and then the complete a 4-player one in first place as well. There was then one more trophy and it was just completing a match in campaign co-op. Now this is apparently different than the competitive one and it does not stack unfortunately, but the premise was literally the exact same and we just played out a campaign level pretty quickly again. Also, side note, War of the Wars campaign co-op is like one of the most fun things in this game, and it shocks me that they haven't brought this feature back in newer COD games. It's actually such a simple thing to throw in for people to enjoy. Major L Call of Duty. So we are now onto the big boy, stage 3, veteran difficulty playthrough. Now I could have done the second stage next, but I figured why not try to knock out a few of those in this run. So kicking it off, the real playthrough of War of the War begins now. And the very first level being Semper Fi didn't pose too much of a challenge. The way this game has the difficulty set up, it pretty much just gets harder as you play, and the first 3 or so levels are not that bad at all. And this kind of led me into bragging about how easy it was and then being quite humbled, I think is the right word. But as I said, the first few levels are not horrible at all. I did still die twice on this first level, but that's not bad at all compared to future ones. And both of the deaths were just from me not being positioned right and having enemies surprise me. So I then just finished it out doing the same objective of blowing up the place and getting out of dodge, with the trophy popping from Semper Fi's veteran finish. The next level, Little Resistance, was then up, and my main strategy for this one was to try and abuse the naval bombardment as much as possible. This level could be very hard if you just rush in due to the enemies being very defensive of the area and honestly camping like little hoes, but that's another story.
That's what I'm saying.
So I just went about this level playing slow, and that's my only advice for this difficulty. Play super slow, but try your best not to just sit in one spot because that's what actually causes the grenade spams of War of the Wars veteran difficulty. If you ever prone in cover while inside of a gunfight, you would just get spammed by grenades, and I found that out the hard way after about 9 hours doing this run. And on this level, due to me performing so well, I actually did not die a single time. I wasn't capping, chat. I never do. Okay, that was cap. But this was actually clutch because there's a trophy from not dying on a level in veteran difficulty, and getting that knocked out on accident was such a major W. I just busted a fat one on the spot. Also, here's that trophy from Little Resistance's finish, by the way. The next level, called Hard Landing, was up, and this is when things started to get a bit more challenging. And mostly just because the enemies are increasing in number, quality, and the areas we fight in are much more open and not so close quarter, the kryptonite of this playthrough. And I would end up dying a handful of times making my way through the beginning part of this level, which just had us essentially moving forwards towards the real challenge at the end of it. And before reaching the second half of the level, which I have yet to touch on, though, I did get another trophy called Snake in the Grass from taking out a Japanese soldier lying in wait. Now, I swore I did this already, but apparently not, that after pre-firing at some bitches, the trophy popped, so W. But the later half of this level, I had to storm this big structure with a few floors of enemies, and I died here and there trying to do this. However, it got much worse after when you have to cross a giant field of just all-out warfare. And we were doing this to reach a stronghold again, but this one had artillery guns on top of it that were really hurting our aerial and ground vehicles in the war so far. But on the ground, crossing this field full of tanks, you also do have to take out quite a few of them yourself, and thankfully there's pretty much infinite shots of this bazooka to do that, so you don't have to nail everyone perfectly, and I know this because I miss since my aim f***ing sucks, to be honest. I also was playing super careful even with the war bleeding onto us, so I ended up not really dying all that much here. I made full use of my smoke grenades to carry me through the stronghold up to the top to take out the guns, but this is actually the easy part of the level. The ending part after the guns are gone has an all-out assault on us from the enemies. They bring tanks, a ton of soldiers, even helicopters I thought at one point, but that might just be completely made up. And normally you're supposed to use some of these guns that remain to eliminate the enemies. However, if you even jump on one, you will get shot and die. It is a guarantee. And if not for this game's time limit bailout of this mission, it would have been a top 10 hardest of all time. But thanks to that, you can literally just wait around for our ally airstrike to come down and eliminate everyone finishing the mission. Gotta love it, and here's that trophy pop. The following level was then called Vendetta, and I don't think I mentioned this one at all in my normal playthrough, and that's because it was actually pretty easy and no trophies were gotten there. There is a few missable ones which I should have done had I seen them, but this is that pretty famous sniper level of World at War. And it's also when you meet Reznov for the first time in the game. You both awake after a bunch of Germans kill all of our allies and leave us thinking we died in this fountain of death, literally. He then explains we were after this general guy he has been hunting for days now, also gives us his sniper because he is a boo-boo on his hand, hashtag relatable, and then you do a few sniper shots on some enemies as loud noises are ahead to drown it out. And this is also when you can get a missable trophy, but I did not do that, obviously. You then follow him a little bit, just sort of sneaking around the place. That is until the famous sniper of this level spots us and begins to lay down the pipe. Now, if you have played this mission, you know what goes on. There's a single sniper in the building across the street on whatever floor the game chooses to place him on in your run. For me, he was on the very, very top of it, and you have about a half second every time he peeks to shoot him before he either shoots you or just dips back into cover, meaning there is no room for error and you need to be perfect with it. Also, on veteran, if you don't hit a headshot, it would just injure him and nothing happens and the fight goes on. In total, I think I died to this guy or failed about 454 times before figuring out that if you're just constantly moving, it makes him have a harder time hitting you. It's kind of obvious. And that's how I beat him, just strafing side to side and hitting him multiple times to do enough damage and therefore kill him so we can move on. But then I ran into another very annoying part of this level almost right after. You and Reznov are hiding in a building as German troops flood by us, but then this fucking clock goes off and gives away our position. They then just torch it because, I mean, you know, it was the times as we know. And this fire section is crazy on veteran because if you don't move fast enough, you just fucking burn alive and you have about a second of leeway time. And I was also unaware of this when playing, which led to me dying repeatedly and having no clue how. And furthermore, you also do need to quickly snipe the enemies in the windows that are shooting at you because they can also kill you just from gunfire. Thankfully though, I did end up getting a trophy called Purple Heart Dream this, which I'm a little bit unsure of what it was from. However, my best guess is just getting a lot of kills while being killed, and yeah, here's that. Anyways, this took me about 123 tries this time to beat it, but once you reach the stairs and climb up, you're pretty much in the clear for the rest of the level to the general's assassination. And I don't think the assassination is actually hard in terms of dying. I just kind of sucked at hitting him, which took me multiple tries to do it, and it was quite sad. Its Illusion aim should be a medically diagnosed condition for those who will forever have poopy aim in video games. But once assassinating the guy, then running away once being chased and jumping into the river, it ends the level and the trophy pops from beating it on veteran. So the next 6 trophies I got were then all from just beating missions on veteran difficulty. And this is also the point of the game's difficulty in general, where levels just became unforgiving as unforgiving can be. We were fully in, boys, and there was no chill being let on ourselves. The level after the previous one was called Their Land, Their Blood, and it had us with Reznov again, but a little bit in the future, this time rushing onto the Germans' land to take it over. At first, it's not horrible. I did get into the red often, and my screen began to just resemble that the entire time. However, there is the checkpoint combat section that is horrid. You have to rush this trench just full of enemies. And if you go left to do this or straight, you're gonna die. Yeah, there's basically no other outcome. And this is also when grenades became a big part of the game, more notably than the prior levels. However, if you do just rush hard right and make it to the top of this ledge of sorts, you have a great sight down onto everyone below, and it makes clearing the area far easier than before. And it did still take me quite a few deaths to figure this out, but once I did, I got past it. And that's pretty much it for the hard part of this level. The rest of it just had the objective of us blowing up tanks coming at the squad, but you get infinite bazookas to do this, so it really isn't a challenge. And it also ends off with one more final tank blowing up, so just be careful at that point because it is kind of sudden if you aren't prepared. And I know it just said it finishes off, but that actually is just part 1 of 2 for this mission. The second part had us entirely going balls out attacking their camps, and it's honestly hell. I spent forever here just dying. And not even to grenades, just enemies shooting me. There's 2 things in particular that make enemies extremely annoying in veteran. One of these is the fact that they snap to you and stop shooting the AI whenever you're in view, regardless of how in they were to the previous enemy. And 2, they just infinitely spawn in if you don't move forwards and progress the checkpoints, which is one of the most annoying features of the game. If you aren't constantly moving and killing enemies, it just goes on pretty much forever. Your team essentially never kills anybody either, and it's kind of like we're just a one-man army for pretty much the entire game. But like I said, this ending section was just us killing, or at least trying to, in the Germans' camp. Once doing it enough, progressing checkpoints and making it to the end, it finished and the trophy pops so we can move on. The next level is then called Burn 'Em Out, and this is the fastest level in the game, so even though it was pretty rough and veteran, it didn't last all that long. I also found the flamethrower to be more of an annoyance than useful because its range is ass, and getting killed while trying to flame an enemy is just depressing. I did still die over and over though, and that's kind of the trend for the rest of this game. But the only spot I got hard stuck on was the final bunker's cave leading up to it. These enemies all just hide like little bitches, and they don't come out at all until you run across an imaginary code line that triggers them to fight you. And then they go back to hiding after you do kill a few of them, and then you just kind of have to repeat that cycle over and over until they're all dead. Thankfully though, the final push up to the bunker gave us a checkpoint, and also there was like 0 enemies left at this point, so it ended relatively smooth. Once taking it, the trophy pop from that level. The mission called Relentless was up next, and this is probably the worst American level in the game. It is that same level I mentioned earlier. We have to storm caves for the most part of it, and it's just ass. Again, it's not even because of grenades. Those are only really a pain on the Reznov levels for the most part at the end of the game. It's just the enemies in general. They will kill your ass, and they will do it without you even seeing who's shooting at you. I spent over an hour on this level, and it's probably like a 15-minute journey if you do it on Recruit. It's not complex. But I just died so many times, and it was honestly worse getting in the cave because the enemies cross-map the shit out of you. I actually despise this level. It made me kind of hate the game, and I crashed out a bit, I'm not gonna lie. Again though, no controllers were decimated. We've turned a new leaf, as I've said previously. But like usual, after suffering, crying, pissing our pants even, upon finishing the level and just reaching its end, which is all this one had us do, it ends and the trophy popped. The next level is then called Blood and Iron, and this is actually the easiest of the veteran levels besides that plain one later on, because it's very hard to actually die on. And the objective is very fast and simple, just destroy whatever it tells you to. There is also a trophy on this level that I missed again, which I have to clean up later on, but once finishing it, here's a trophy pop. The next level called Ring of Steel was also pretty booty. Again, not even because of grenade spam, just because it had a ton of enemies throughout it, but overall it's actually not horrible. I just found that playing very slow and sniping for the most part helped to clear out enemies, and obviously rushing forwards when it was safe to move the line had to be done, which is the only real challenge. It also ends very much in our favor with the enemies retreating for the most part, and there's also a trophy got in here by the way, which I again did miss. But yeah, this entire level is just us killing Germans and literally nothing else, which is kind of funny. After finishing it, the trophy popped, and here it is. The next level, however, was much harder, yet it was still kind of the same premise. It was called Eviction, and this is that subway level. But before you make it to the underground, you first had to eradicate countless enemies, and I ended up dying so much here I just had to walk away. You know, a quick reorganize of the brain, and I smashed my head into the wall a few times to help it start processing shit a little bit better. Might have brain trauma now, and no, I didn't find that image on Google. It's real. But once you do make it to the subway, it is kind of ass down there. However, I did end up going into flow state and just putting it on them Germans. Using the power outage also did help a great deal. Once finishing the level, again, another trophy pops. So the next one was called Black Cats, and this is the plane level I mentioned. Also, it's very easy, and you basically can't die if you're playing the objective. It has 2 trophies on it, and I actually managed to get one of them for just shooting out all these spotlights on the first ship we were destroying. I also do not understand why this is a trophy because the entire ship goes under itself after, but alright then. Anyways, I then just finished the level off. Didn't do the other trophy because that shit is hard to recruit, let alone on veteran. But I don't think I died at all, maybe once or twice. Not a hard level, and here's a trophy from it. So there is now 4 remaining levels, and they for the most part all suck caca. I deadass spent almost 2 hours doing the next level called Blowtorch and Corkscrew. You have to do a very simple objective of storming this stronghold trench thing, but the enemies are just everywhere. There is literally not a moment where you aren't being attacked from a mile away with no cover to hide in. And the checkpoints are also brutal as shit. You can go like half the level and get nothing, die, and have to completely restart. I think my neighbors are also going to start filing noise complaints on how many times I yelled "F***, shit, and bitch" while doing this level. And once you do make it to the place, you have to climb 3 more floors, clearing off enemies as well. But I honestly didn't find that hard. I really don't believe that any close quarter combat in this game is bad. It was just when I was in the open that I struggled on horribly. But that final floor is also notorious for its impossible climb up the ladder, and somehow my team got the enemies dead for me, so shout out them for doing one thing finally. They were resting the entire game up to this point for that 1 kill, and I can't complain because here's the trophy finally. The next level is then that Okinawa one, and it's the final American level. Overall, it's actually not horrible. It's just very long and has a lot of enemies. But once you do get to the mortar section, you can still use those things and get a lot of them dead fairly easy. Also, in the ending of it, you can just camp, and that's what I did. So here's that trophy afterwards. There was then 2 more levels left, and they both happened in the same place. Heart of the Reich and Downfall. The hardest level in the game by far is Heart of the Reich, and I will die on this hill if you disagree. The first third of it is has you fight enemies and buildings. Again, it was close quarters, so nothing awful. But then you get to the big open area in front of the place we were storming to end off the game, and this is that that destroy flat gun or whatever kind of big ass green gun it is objective, and it's awful. I spent hours, literally hours, and multiple of them. Probably almost a quarter of my playtime was on this one area. The main challenge is everything. Enemies shoot your ass dead on sight, grenades fall in handfuls of 3 or 4 every time you prone to regain HP for more than 4 seconds. It's literally the most challenging level in a Call of Duty game I've ever played. But even with hours of dying repeatedly over and over and over, I do have a strategy that I came up with to get it done. First of all, the initial flat gun's destruction you should go for is the far right one because it's right there and it's honestly very easy to get. And then you just have to run back to the tank park before it and grab a launcher that's resting on it. You can then shoot the launcher at the other gun to the left and it should destroy it. I had some issues with it hit markering it, but I think that was more just my aim being bad. So after those two are gone, you thankfully get a checkpoint, which is nice, don't get me wrong. However, that does not make it any easier to continue the level. We have to cross a ton of enemies just to move like 10 feet forward, and the death is just horrible. I died so many times, I can't even count the amount of times that I, died. I also went AFK multiple times just to not lose it, and also just like walk around in a circle so I could I don't even know. I was losing my mind. But overall, the strategy I found to make this push was to run around like a complete f***ing idiot, spamming grenades, shooting enemies when possible, pretty much just trying to not stop moving, because not only does this make the grenade spam slow down, it also makes the enemies spawn slow down because the game recognizes that the player is trying to move forward with the mission and not just at a standstill. Something about that helps it a lot. It's kind of odd. But then once you are in a good position before the final guns, I went for the left one first because you can kind of just walk up and destroy it. I also did find another launcher, which was right next to these stairs of this place the boys took over, and I tried to use this on the gun twice, but it hit markered both times. Again, probably just my aim. So I did have to push up and destroy, which I surprisingly did, and that gave us another checkpoint. And this then left us with one more objective: make it to the top of these stairs and destroy a pillar to let us get access to the building and finish the level off. And this is also the point where I have zero tips. I have no clue how you do this. I died so many times again. It took me 2 hours to climb these stairs, and I did it by just pure luck at the end of the day. The damn pillar finally dropped down as I was about to die from grenades and enemies. But with the pillar dropping, you also want to be far right, because if you are far left, it's going to crush you, which did happen to me, I'm not going to lie. But then that ends off the level and the trophy pops finally. So we are now on to the last level of the game. And this one, for the most part, isn't awful. It is still pretty hard, but it's not anywhere near as bad as the previous level. And the only real challenging part of it is the very start of it. You pretty much just get lasered immediately by enemies and die, but all you have to do is just hard run to the right as soon as possible, and if you survive, you pretty much win the level. And the rest of it just has us killing enemies, taking cover when need be, finishing it off finally with the flag walk, and god damn, it felt good. So here's that final levels trophy pop and the veteran difficulty finish trophy along with it. But we aren't finished, ladies, because there is still stage 2, the miscellaneous trophies to go after. And I'm not gonna lie, pretty much all of them are easy. There is a few that take some time, but nothing at all compared to what we just did. The first trophy I got was called the Professional from shooting all the enemies without reloading on the sniper mission. And this level itself also has 3 trophies that I got during the cleanup, but this trophy was just from shooting all the enemies without reloading, as I said. The first 2 groups can be done in one, and the third can also apparently, but I couldn't get it to land, so I just killed them both with single shots. But then the man and his dog that come up, you have to hit in one shot, and you gotta aim quickly because the time window is very quick. But upon landing that shot, the trophy pops. I then got another about midway through the level from killing 3 enemies with 1 round, and this is also gotten easily on zombies apparently, but I just felt like doing it normally. And when the enemies flood this courtyard, about 4 will go up in this ledge, and if you line up your shot right, you can get 3 at once. I also do suggest throwing a grenade at Reznov so his bitch ass doesn't shoot them because he loves killing Germans. And once landing the shot and getting the 3-piece trophy popped. Now the final trophy on this level is then from assassinating General Amsel, the guy we were after, with a pistol shot. And I actually did it first try. The pistol, however, you had to find earlier in the level, and it wasn't given to you, so I did have to do a second run of the level in general. But once actually going for the trophy, I got it almost right away. No clue how either, just pure luck and shooting in his direction. Literally did that faster than I did it normally, and I'm at a loss here. I then went and replayed that entire Okinawa level to save Sergeant Roebuck at its ending. Very simple, it just takes a while to get to that point, but saving him is done by just shooting the 2 guys in front of him from behind. And here's that trophy after we did save the legend. I then real fast loaded up hard landing, and I killed an enemy in a tree with a flamethrower, with a trophy popping easily. And speaking of flamethrowers, I had to go do an entire level using one which was kind of balls, but not horrible on recruits, so here's that trophy. I then replayed the first level on regular difficulty, and I just used melee the entire time, which again wasn't that bad. I then did a somewhat annoying trophy from what I've read on the internet, but it was on the level Relentless. And this is that level where the Germans retreat at the end of it, if you can remember, and you can actually hop on a tank's turret to kill them as they run. The main challenge with the trophy here is that you need to kill 15 Germans as they're running away. And the kills obviously don't track on screen. You can barely even tell when you get a kill, and the aiming in general is just hard to see. I mean, just look at my screen and tell me if you can tell at all what the f I'm shooting at. I had zero clue. But damn it, I still got 15 kills somehow and the trophy popped. Only 2 trophies remain now. Iron Fist and the infamous Sub of All Zeros. I chose to do Iron Fist first because it's way easier. Shout out to the Rooster Teeth guide I followed. Rest in peace to the legends. But this just had us shoot every watchtower and bunker in the Blood and Iron level. Again, very easy, especially since the tank is OP. Here's a trophy after I did it. And the final trophy being Sum of All Zeros then began. And this is the hardest miscellaneous trophy by far, but it requires you to shoot down 45 zeros in that mission that you play as a plane. A zero, by the way, is just the Japanese enemy plane. Now this happens in the second half of the mission, and on my first go I only got like 31, so close, but not that close to 45. However, on my second try I read a comment on a tutorial for this trophy that pretty much just left like these goals on every checkpoint, and I followed that, ensuring I had that many kills before reaching the next area. And you can't abuse the save exit to reset, by the way, so I just did that over and over, and it only took me like 10 minutes to get this trophy, which was a major W. I ended with well over 45, almost 50 in the trophy pod right here, with the Platinum Trophy on Call of Duty World at War right along with it. So that was the Call of Duty World at War Platinum Trophy experience. One of the hardest games I've ever done. Definitely the hardest COD, and man, it feels good to be done. Also, this might be my last video before the channel hits 1 million subs. I'm not going to say anything right now, but I am so grateful for you guys' support. I will have a few more videos being made before that is hit, so there might be an awkward post tomorrow. But hey, we're almost there, ladies, and Fortnite is about to show its dominance in my brain. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.